I hope you can see my screen.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Yes, so chapter 11 is about teaching practice, and there is some pointers on how you have to teach, what are the qualities of teacher, and how you have to arrange for classes, etc. Right? So it's fairly a simple chapter, not a very complex or a heavy chapter as such. If you read it once, you'll be able to more, I mean, understand. It's very simple actually. Okay, so whenever we teach, some of the pointers and notes which I made, I'm going to just share it. So teaching practices, when you're teaching, the teaching environment should be a clean and a well lit room, and it should be free of clutter and enough space between the mats, at least 6 by 3, 6 by 4 feet. It should be fresh, clean, and not polluted with respect to air, sound, or anything, right? So, this is the environment where yoga should be practiced. And the teaching practice, as a teacher, what you should do, always prepare for your classes. So don't go randomly and do something, right? And very very important, because we think, oh, okay, the students are just coming and maybe they don't know anything, but that's not the way to do. Be genuine and be prepared for your class. At least how you're going to sequence your classes, what are the postures and the meditation or the pranayama practice that you're going to teach, right? You have to have that fair idea in your mind before you practice. And always introduce if there are new members in the classroom, and then start the class. Sometimes what happens, people will come beforehand, so usually advisable to make them sit in meditative posture, or they can also relax in shavasana to begin with. But begin the class with silence or meditation. Let them just be, instead of chit chatting about general things, right? Just create that environment of, you're going to practice the session right now, right? And be pleasant. And whenever you make mistakes, one of the important qualities is to laugh it out, so that you lighten the mood of yourself as well as the others around you. So sometimes we'll say right hand, left leg, right hand. Sometimes you mix the words and all that. So don't worry about all that. Just laugh it out when you're aware and being aware of it. And very important, express gratitude to students, because you become a better teacher with the students that you have, right? So the more students who you share with, the more better teacher you become. Okay, and accept the situation and mistakes, whatever it may be, right? You may not be feeling well, you may not be, able to take classes, all that, but just accept it and keep teaching. So continue, keep teaching, continue to teach yoga, and that is the way that you will gain your own practice as well once you teach others, right? And what are the teacher qualities? Of course, a good communication skills. Why? Because you're going to instruct the students, right? So you have to instruct it very, very properly with clear instructions, and follow the 8 step method when you are going to do the practical classes. I know all of you have passed the practical exams, but that 8 step method really helps if you're going to get some new appointments to or you're going to start with new students. First you tell the asana name, the meaning of the asana, then then you can do a demonstration, then you can have someone else to do a demonstration along with you, then you can say the benefits, contraindications, and then the breathing along with that you will practice together. Okay, and listening. Now, as a teacher, and important as a teacher, but also as anything else, is an attentive listening. When we say attentive listening, it is not, it is uninterrupted, bringing your full focus to the person who is talking to you. And one thing what we tend to do as teachers, or even as anything else also, we keep advising people. So that is not the, always not welcome, not advising. Like, people may come to yoga because they may have some problem. They'll start with saying, oh, I have backache, oh, I have knee ache, and have, something like that. So you don't just tell them, oh, then you should do this, you should do that. Don't start go on giving the advices. Just listen to them. That itself is enough. They just want someone to talk to, and then a shoulder to cry on. So just be there and listen. Instead of saying be positive, you have to be positive, you have to be brave and all that, that's not necessary usually. So tone it down, all that, right? When you build a rapport, when they seek your advice, then you can be honest about it and give. And genuinity, very very important for a teacher to be genuine. right? You can share your own journey as a practitioner, as a scholar practitioner, or whatever, right? But genuineness in everything that you do, honesty and genuineness, very very important. Non-argumentative, this happens because different schools will teach in a different way, and there will be always some students who will be saying, oh no, I learned this one there, and this is not the way to learn, and things like that. Just say, okay, whatever works for you, right? Do it to your comfort level, so handle it that way rather than saying argumentative, oh, this is the right way to do it, and all that. So different gurus, different lineages, different modifications have gone through in the yoga practice, and there is whatever works for you is the best. So just accept that, and then don't argue on simple silly things and waste your energy on that, right? And other thing is, always share your knowledge, your mistakes, and your journey, right? So that's very important. And appreciation, this was also written in the book, which I thought is very very important, because I've also taught in a school, and this was the rule that we had, which says, for one negative comment you have to give five positive comments. Okay, for one negative thing you have to do five appreciations. For a child, for an adult, for anyone, this works. Even in a corporate also, everything, this works very well. So always appreciate, so people, as people, we always want to be appreciated, acknowledged, and feel valued. Okay, so bring that out in the class, and never blame on anything, on circumstances or anything. No one will be interested in that. Oh, I came to the class late, or I didn't prepare, or I didn't do this. Don't give excuses like that. Just begin whatever you've done, right? And be honest. If you're not prepared for the class, just be honest about it and then prepare. And understanding and compassion are the qualities of a teacher. As I said, listening, understanding, compassion, everything is more or less related to a counseling also, right? So teacher counseling, yoga counseling, very very important. So all these qualities imbibe in yourself and start including that. Okay, now this was one of the questions that came for us in Y3, in L3, sorry, exam. So there are three types of students, as you all know. One is Adhamadikara, just initiated, Madhyamadikara, practicing for a while, and Uttamadikara, who is an adept to the yoga, right? So what kind of Raja Yoga is prescribed for these three kind of students, right? So for Adhamadikara, just a beginner, you prescribe Ashtanga Yoga. That is all the eightfold yogas as per the Patanjali. And then for a Madhyama Adhikara, who has been practicing for a while, you ask him to do Kriya Yoga, which is Tapas Swa Adhyaya, sorry for the spelling mistake, Swa Adhyaya and Ishvara Pranidhana, right? So you practice that for Madhyamadikara. And for Uttamadikara, who has been adept to yoga, Raja Yoga prescribes Abhyasa and Vairagya. Okay, so this is, sorry, yeah, okay. Disturbance. Okay. This was one of the questions that came. They can ask in any way. What is the prescription practice for from Raja Yoga for Uttamadikara, and different choices like that. Okay. And then teacher qualities. So as a teacher, you should be able to lead sessions in group as well as for individuals. And same thing, building on what we discussed in the earlier slide, create a safe space and nurturing environment for students, and do not underestimate the subject matter expertise. Students look up to you when they come as your student, right? So for you, it is very very, for us as teachers, it's very very important to continuously upgrade ourselves. Continuous studying is very important, and being an expert, subject. And when you don't know, and look out, come back, ask, and then clear that instructions. And clear instructions and explanations important as a teacher. Okay, no ambiguity in that. Now, teaching methods. So this is again not specific to yoga, but general teaching methods are lecture methods, project based, demonstration method, etc. Right? So in different schools, they for seva based also, in the sense like they'll ask you to do a karma yoga project, or they'll ask you to do, teach free yoga classes for these particular students for some time, like that. So that is another way of teaching, and doing the karma yoga, practicing that also, right? So these are very generic in nature, not really very specific for yoga teaching, but lecture method, project based, student centric or teacher centric, either ways, right? All these methods are there in the teaching. Okay, that's more or less a broad summary of this chapter. And as I said, this chapter is very light. And I remember only one question which came on the adhikara and types of the students in Raja Yoga for that. Other questions they will ask, like, some they'll integrate a little bit of psychology and ask, or yeah, that is it. Not much of. It is very generic chapter, like be focused, time management, communication skills, your priorities, feeling your presence felt, making a safe space, all this as a quality of a teacher, right? So that's all. I could summarize the important points from the chapter. If yeah, you can. I'm also scanning through the chapter again, and I don't see much of anything else that is there. It's a very short chapter actually. So, anything else? If anyone else who's written the exam can share, that will be good.
Yeah,
Dhananjay, yeah.
yeah. Pushpa, maybe if we can touch upon how the classes should be conducted, groups, and for various age groups, etc.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah. So
can,
I don't
yeah,
have the
yeah,
slide for that prepared, but I will just share because from my experience and the knowledge, right?
yeah,
So generally, like therapy. I mean, therapy classes tend to be a little more personal and sometimes one to one. And when that one to one, when your student knows what to do, then you can include other students along with you, right? So that is one thing with therapy classes. And generally for children it is better to uh, have a different batch. But if you have just one student, two students, then you can include them in the adult classes. It's okay, because then it may not make sense for you to include them. But if you are having significant amount of children, more than 4 5, then you should make it more interesting for the children, because you should make it more game included. You should include some memory games, and some different techniques for children. And but children when they're adolescent, after 13 14, you can include them in the adult group as well, and then they will get along with the adult group, and manage along with that, right? So that is one classification with respect to the groups. And for senior citizens, because you may need to give a lot of modifications for them, with respect to the postures especially. So you can do another batch for senior citizens above 55 or above 60, depending on the type of practice that the student has undergone, right? So that is what I would classify with respect to the age. Now, how the class should be conducted, as I said, I've been teaching for past 4 years, and for every class I really prepare. Okay, I have to prepare because then going there and then thinking, oh, now what I will do is not the way. Earlier I used to make some small notes also on what are the postures, what are the meditations, and what would be the pranayama that I would teach. And that really helps, so that you are, the more preparation you have, it will give you more confidence. And then the students also are satisfied at the end of the day, because you're not messed up, and you don't seem to be wasting their time as well, right? And every teacher generally prepares also. I've seen that, right? It not be random. So you, at least if you're not writing the notes, at least mentally you're thinking of what are the sequences that you would follow, because there are so many asanas and postures, and you don't do everything in one class, right? You will do warm-ups, you will start with the prayer, you will do the warm-ups, then you'll start with the postures, and you'll go in a sequence typically, like a standing, sitting, supine, prone, inversions, and then relaxation, and then meditation and pranayamas, right? So that's the way you would do the class, and time it accordingly. It all comes with the practice, right? So, but I would say If you prepare well, your class will be good for you, your class will be good for your students as well, no matter how many years of practice or teaching that you will have. Because self practice is different, but when you stand in front of others and teach and lead the class, it is a little different. And include everyone, right? So sometimes what happens, students will come after a break, or after, they'll join the class when they're quite what to say, at an advanced stage of aging or something like that, and they may feel really inferior to do things. So make the class inclusive and safe place for everyone. So you don't really point out, oh, okay, you do something like this, but rather you say like, this is the modifications for the postures, right? So if someone can't do balancing posture, like say Vrakshasana, immediately in the first class, you give them intermediate modifications, like that. So you ask them to put their feet on the calf muscles. That's it, not putting the feet on their thighs, like that. So think of the modification so that the class becomes inclusive and everyone gets benefited, rather than only the advanced students who you may be wanting to, right? So don't try not to differentiate that way. Yeah, unless until you have that familiarity with the students, right? That's what I would say as a practical led class. And other thing is, one thing which has always bothered me personally is when I started my practice and my teaching with yoga, was how do I integrate the theoretical knowledge in the practical class, right? So everyone who comes, the expectation will be for losing weight, for reducing my back pain, for doing, for reducing my neck pain, for reducing my tummy and things like that. And the general notion is I have to be physically active, and I can't bore them with lot of theory also, right? So think of innovative ways of how you could impart the knowledge whatever you have studied for L1, L2 or L3, plus your own journey in yoga, studying the theory into your practical classes, more than explaining the benefits and the contraindications also, right? So you can do like a monthly one workshops, right? One workshop on pranayama where you just tell about the pranayama and different practices, cooling pranayama, heating pranayama, resonating pranayama, like that, right? And once you do just Trataka meditation, one workshop on Trataka meditation where you just run them through the kriyas and run them through the practical of Trataka meditation. And one day you just say, today we'll just talk a little bit about chakras, and then we'll do some postures for the chakras, and then talk about the chakras and bring about the knowledge of the nadis again there, and then revise the concept of pranayama, like that, right? So different topics you can think of how you can integrate the theory with your practical workshops also, right? Yeah, any other questions, anyone? From the exam point of view, as I said, I don't remember many questions from this chapter, but just have a read of it at least once, so that maybe one or two questions they will ask on the qualities of teacher, and then say yes or no kind of things, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but at least there will be one or two questions will come.
Yeah, one or two questions will come. Yeah, yeah. And these are not, as I said, the teaching practice chapter is more on the pedagogy, in the sense the qualities of a teacher, not specific to yoga. It is very generic also. Okay. So there will be, because it says 10% questions will be asked. So you have to read through that chapter anyways. Yeah. Okay, thank you everyone. All the best for your classes. Thank you so much.